You're now listening to Sound Talent Media. Check out more shows at soundtalentmedia.com.
Before he was a producer-songwriter extraordinaire, Butch Walker was the lead singer of the pop-rock band Marvelous 3. In 1998, the debut single off their second album hit number 5 on the alternative rock charts before the band broke up and Butch pursued his current career path. We are joined by Joe Robinson of Cassettes to revisit Marvelous 3's Freak of the Week and determine if Butch Walker is one-hit thunder or if he should have stopped it before he began. One hit is all you need to make the money guaranteed, and you can live off royalties forever. And it makes you wonder, is it just a blunder, or is it one hit thunder? Hey, Joe.
Hey, what's going on, Chris?
Hey, Joe, you're here to talk about Marvelous 3.
I am very, very excited to talk about Marvelous 3.
And we're restarting the episode because I accidentally called you a drummer.
Yeah, I was taken aback because the last time I played drums, it didn't end well for anybody.
Okay. Well, we're fellow bassists, so
yeah,
we're gonna talk about Butch Walker and Marvelous 3, who I guess did you like this song when it first came out in 1998?
To be honest, so I sort of remembered this song. Like, people would reference it every once in a while, and honestly, until I listened to it maybe like 2 years ago, I really didn't remember it. But since then, I mean, I've been listening to it. I'm like, this is like a really good song.
Okay, good, because I don't feel so bad now, because I did not know this song whatsoever in 1998. Granted, in 1998, I was probably only listening exclusively to third wave ska music. So, so this was really out of my wheelhouse. And honestly,
this might be the opposite of that, actually.
Yeah, honestly, listening to this song for this episode, it sounded familiar to me, but I didn't really know it.
Well, I think like one of the problems with it is it doesn't have going for it is it sounds like a 90s ass 90s song.
Yeah, it's definitely, if I had heard this at the time, which I may have in passing heard it, but there's no way I would have liked this. I was so, I jokingly say ska, but I was really into ska. But if it wasn't something from Fat Records or Epitaph or Lookout or something at that era, I just wanted nothing to do with it. I was so exclusively into like that style of punk rock. Whereas this does have that sort of influence, but this was just way out of my realm, even though the music was somewhat similar when you listen to this song.
No, yeah, and honestly, I mean, like, pretty much the same for me, except if you replace ska with like Slipknot.
Okay,
that's kind of where my head was at.
Nice.
Yeah, this was I don't know, going back. So why I returned to this song is actually because of one of the band members who has gone on to have a really good solo career. And I was like, I'll go listen to, like, he talks about this in some of his solo songs about having this like one hit wonder kind of thing. He even calls himself a one hit wonder. So I was like, I'll go back and listen to it. So that's like really why I listened to it. And legitimately, as soon as you guys had the idea for this podcast, this was the first song that I pitched to Matt, your partner, to get on the podcast, honestly.
Right. Well, I'm glad you did, because it made me check it out. Obviously, if we're going to work backwards from now, for anyone who's listening who doesn't know this, Butch Walker, probably one of the most popular producers and most well-known, especially like in the world of music, that Punchline and Cassettes are kind of grouped into. Butch Walker, like, he just produced the new Green Day album. He's produced Taylor Swift and tons of other stuff. If you look at his resume, it's very impressive. So to call him a one-hit wonder is actually laughable. But but Marvelous 3, which actually wasn't his first band, but his first band that I think anyone really knew about.
Yeah.
He was in a glam rock band called South Gang, which I don't know at all. Oh, but apparently they had a single that was on Headbangers Ball on MTV at some point. But
yeah, Tainted Angel. I listened to
oh,
that. Listen,
you know,
reading
you
up
know
on
this
this, I
song?
listened to that one.
Okay. All right. Well, that's cool. I didn't know that song, despite the fact that I would tape Headbangers Ball and 120 Minutes every week to make sure, but I don't remember that one. I'm glad that you picked this because it made me check out some Marvelous 3. And to be honest, like, it's pretty good. Like, it reminds me of do you know the Stereo?
No, I don't know the Stereo. No.
Great band, great Fueled by Ramen band from back in the day. Jamie Wolford, who then went on to be in the band Let Go and done tons of other stuff. He produced a couple of Punchline albums.
Oh, very cool.
Very, very awesome dude. But that was his band. And it kind of puts me in this. I like the Stereo a little bit more, but kind of puts me in that same sort of vein. I don't know. Like, I haven't really dove into Butch Walker's solo stuff too much, but it seems like maybe you are a big fan. Is that right?
I'm deep in Butch Walker territory right now. He's like kind of, I feel like he is my spirit animal. He
Okay.
is legitimately like, I don't know. I only discovered him maybe 3 or 4 years ago, but I've seen him live a couple of times since then. I've bought all of his records. He is like my dude for sure.
It seems like people that like Butch Walker really like Butch Walker. I noticed
Yeah,
that a lot of times, and I don't know and I'm not dragging Butch Walker here, but I think the thing that maybe holds me back, and maybe you can correct me or point me in the direction of a few songs,
sure.
is just kind of like this Freak of the Week song. It's so close to being something I would really like, minus the lyrics.
Oh no. Oh no. So
Yeah.
that's what pulls me in is the lyrics. And I feel like he writes cynical love songs,
Okay.
which I can understand wouldn't be for everyone because there are definitely some. Now that you mentioned the lyrics, I was actually taking a listen to some Marvelous 3 lyrics, some old Butch Walker lyrics, and I understand where you're coming from for sure. They haven't aged well for sure.
It's just when I'm looking, I have the Freak of the Week lyrics right in front of me, and like the
Mhm.
first verse, I spend a lot on all the clothes that I got because all the geeks that I meet, they all look cooler than me. But what to do when they're all looking at you because you're the Freak of the Week because you're on the TV? This these lyrics don't really speak to me personally, but it's really catchy at the same time. It is very sugary, catchy. I do love the chorus. The chorus is great.
Yeah, and when you're looking at those lyrics, something that so I don't like those lyrics either, but when you look at the end lyrics, there's at the end they're saying tell me I sold out, tell me I sold out, go ahead. I think they were like this is going to be a hit song. We're going to, we're going to put all of our eggs in this basket, throw as sugary pop lyrics as possible to get to get this over, and that's just what this song is going to be. It's not. This
Right.
doesn't have to be something that is deep.
Right. And it's funny, like this song's from 1998. That is like right in the heart of people calling bands and artists sellouts. I felt like that was like such a popular thing to accuse people of and to say at that time, to call people sellouts. I mean, Real Big Fish really capitalized on the fact that people said that so much. And I feel like I was guilty of that too because I was a teenage dude that liked punk music. So like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
of course that was a very common thing. And now I don't feel like I hear that as much. And I don't know if people even pay attention to that, but that was an important thing. You didn't want to sell out at the time. And I feel like people would falsely would improperly use that because I do think it's a legitimate thing to say. And a couple artists pop right into my mind of people that straight up would get some momentum and popularity based on their music, and then once they achieve that would just completely change their style to exactly what was popular. And that's what I would define as selling out. But if you can get popular and then release more music but still stay true to yourself and your honest music, I don't think that's selling out, even if you signed to a big record label or if you achieve massive success. So I think at the time, though, in my teenage years, I would use that pretty loosely.
Yeah, and honestly, I think the sellout term is really, it's something, it's funny that you say, it went away. I think that went away with a little bit more of view into people's lives. So like with the rise of social media and more accessibility to people, I think people really stopped using the term sellout because, I mean, Chris, you've been in a band for what, like 25 years, something like that?
Yep, pushing it.
So I've been in bands for 15, 20 years or something like that. I would give anything to be able to just make enough money to just play music all the time, right? So I totally understand if someone is chasing that next hit single, chasing that song and that's going to sell 1 million copies, because that's how they make their money,
Right.
And if you really respect it, for me, if I really respect an artist, part of that is I want them to be able to do their art, right? So I was like right there along with you calling people sellouts back in the day. And now I feel like that's kind of diminished a little bit for me because I want people to be able to make their art. And I know to do that, you have to make money. It's just like
Right.
how it is.
Yeah. And I mean, I guess it just comes down to if that song that you're being accused of being a sellout is good or not. That's the main thing, and of course that's a subjective thing whether it's good or not. It's silly to think about, and the only thing I would say is, okay, you and I are both play music, so I agree with what you're saying, like we both can look at things like that. But if you're not an artist and you're just a listener, you don't owe shit to anybody. Like if you really don't, you listen.
Yeah.
And if somebody does something you don't like, you don't have to listen to them anymore. So it's definitely a fine line. I don't expect everyone to just be like, listen to the logic that you and I are spitting here about selling out or not selling out. But that's a whole other topic that could be a whole podcast. As far as this Marvelous 3 song, one thing we always like to look at is to compare it to what exactly was going on at the time. Matt always does a good job of supplying me with this information, but at the time where Freak of the Week was at its peak on the charts, which it wasn't like a number 1 hit song, but it peaked at number 5 on the Billboard alternative charts. So in actuality, it's a pretty minor hit, but definitely their biggest song. But
spent 20 weeks on there, right?
Yeah, something like that, which is definitely cool, but definitely not. It wasn't like it wasn't number 1 on the Casey Kasem countdown or anything. To compare it to what else was going on in music at the time. So if it peaked at number 5 on the Billboard alternative charts that week, number 4 was Creed with the song One. So, compared to that, it's like fucking Bohemian Rhapsody or something, and I don't even know, that's a little bit unfair of me to say because I don't even know what song One is, but I just, I don't know how you feel, but I think Creed's one of the worst things to ever happen to music. They're almost too easy of a target. I know that's like talking shit on Nickelback or whatever, but like it's just very bad music.
Yeah, but hilarious to follow nowadays. Like I think the main singer from Creed is like a meth head in Florida or something now.
Yeah. Punchline actually played a show. I think it was in Milwaukee. Yes. It's Algonquin for the Goodland, I believe.
Yeah.
We played downstairs at this club in like the smaller room, and upstairs Scott Stapp was playing.
What?
And apparently we were too loud downstairs. so his like sound guy came down and asked us to turn down, and we did. And to thank us for doing that, they gave us a bunch of double extra large Scott Stapp tour t-shirts. that was
funny.
The reward.
Did you get to meet Scott Stapp though?
No, we did not. But yeah, I mean, yeah, Scott Stapp's a pretty funny figure, regardless of Creed's music. And I can't really talk too much shit because they did sell probably 1 billion albums. So.
Yeah, that dude never actually has to work again.
Right, joke's on me. But I'm here making a podcast talking shit on him, and he's never having to worry about anything ever.
Hi, this is Krista Makes, host of Krista Makes a Podcast. The theme of the podcast is songwriting. Each week, my musical guest picks a defining song from their career to discuss, critique, and analyze during the show. So please join me for some fun and insight into some of the greatest songs ever written and recorded. Listen and subscribe at soundtalentmedia.com.
What's up, everybody? I am Finn McKenty, host of the Punk Rock NBA podcast, part of the Sound Talent Media Podcast Network. My podcast is all about doing what you love for a living, and every week I sit down and talk to people who have done exactly that. For example, musicians like Tommy from Between the Buried and Me, Matt from Periphery, Lil Lotus and Shinigami, among many others, photographers, artists, designers, YouTubers like Glenn Fricker and Sarah Dici, and I unpack exactly how they got to where they are today with the goal of helping you do the same. So if that sounds cool, you can listen and subscribe at soundtalentmedia.com, and I'll see you there.
Moving along, number 3 that week was Hole Malibu, which
All right.
Hole's pretty cool. Hole has a couple songs I like. I know that Courtney Love, that's a pretty polarizing
Controversial figure for sure.
Yeah. But I will admit that there's a couple Hole songs that are serious jams. Number 2, Everlast, What It's Like. I could do without.
That was a jam.
You like that one?
Yeah.
I could do without that one. I could do without that one, but it's a good song. It's objectively a pretty good song. And number 1 was Sugar Ray, Every Morning at that time. So in comparison to what was going on, I would have liked for Freak of the Week to have been popular enough for me to at least have known what it was at the time.
Yeah, make an impact.
Yeah, because in comparison to what was going on, it was definitely pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a very, very pop song. Like, I was listening to it this morning, and I was actually very surprised at how fast they get into the verse. It's like 10 seconds for them to get into the verse, and then before the 30-second mark, they're already into that rocking chorus.
Right. Hey, that's probably by design, and I think that's really smart, and probably what, a little precursor to Butch Walker being able to pump out the hits for other artists, because obviously the dude knew what he was doing 20 plus years ago.
Yeah, 100%.
So I'm looking at what else you seem to be the expert about Butch Walker here. Anything else interesting in the Butch Walker world that I should know about?
Yeah, so after Marvelous 3 broke up, and first of all, do you mind if I found this thing? Do you mind if I read this?
Yeah.
So they had a very public breakup with their record label at the time. And this is what they put on their website in 2001, which is right after they released their last album. There's been an incredible amount of lack of interest for the band over at Elektra. Cough, ahem, neglectra, cough, cough. Records lately, and that comes as no surprise, seeing that every record they put out most recently sinks like a dead anchored body in the Hudson River. Well, the time has come. We are free from Elektra. I asked them to let us go, and they did. We did not get dropped. I asked to leave. All caps.
Wow. I mean, it's bold, but he backed it up. That's like quitting your job and then, being super successful after it, I guess.
Yeah.
But
I wonder. So I kind of wonder what was going on there, right? So you look at Butch Walker's career and some of the Marvelous 3 guys' career, because the Marvelous 3 guys were in South Gang as well, which is that glam metal band that Butch Walker was in before.
Right.
So they went on and formed another couple of bands, including the Marvelous 3. Then eventually, Marvelous 3, broke up with the record label. They broke up as well. And reading some of this, like it feels like maybe they were tough to work with. Like maybe they were a challenge.
Right.
And no matter how, I think we've all had that friend who's like very funny or very cool or like brings a lot to the table, but you just like don't want to hang out with them sometimes.
Right.
And I feel like very strongly like that's what the Marvelous Three were like. Like they could probably pump out hits, but you just like don't want to deal with them.
Right. That makes sense. And it's an interesting thing too, because, just in personal experience, we've had our trials and tribulations with like record labels and things like that. But I feel like we've always done a pretty decent job of like keeping that to ourselves, because it seems to me like kind of lame to make that kind of stuff public.
Absolutely.
If someone asks you about it, it's like, yeah, sure, but you could talk about it honestly a little bit. But at the same time, like, maybe people are interested in that kind of stuff, and maybe a little bit of controversy, and maybe Butch Walker knew what he was doing by doing that. I mean, Elektra Records was definitely had such an insane roster, especially in the 90s. Like, they were just at the forefront of the entire like signing of 1 million bands during the rise of like the alternative music scene. Like, Elektra was very much at the forefront of that. And so I don't think that like that it would be that big of a deal to talk shit on Elektra Records, this major huge label, as it would be to talk shit on some like little independent label or something like that. So yeah, probably wasn't a big deal to anyone, I guess.
No, probably not. I mean, just a couple of artists from Elektra Records, AC/DC,
right,
Anthrax.
I remember that Ween Pure Guava came out on Elektra. I mean, Elektra is just, it's still today such a huge label, and I'm sure that they've had their, that's also the risk you take with major labels. That's it's very easy to get swept. Could you imagine how many artists and bands that are really good that we probably just never heard? Stuff gets shelved and never heard.
Oh, so, absolutely, yeah. Especially because those record labels are, I mean, same as if you're a scrappy artist, you got to make that money. If you're putting out a record from an alternative band and you have another alternative band's record that's about to come out, you don't want them competing against each other.
Right.
You're putting you want to put all the money into marketing one of them and the one that you think is going to win, right?
Right.
So after the Marvelous Three, he then went on to write for Pink, Avril Lavigne, Fall Out Boy, Weezer. He wrote hits for all of those bands. SR-71, he helped to write Right Now, that song.
So did he straight up write songs for these bands, like write the song? Or did he like co-write?
So I think he co-writ a lot. Okay. Which again is, it's surprising to me because it seems like he was probably a challenge to work with as an artist.
Yeah.
But I think he just went in and he just started co-writing with these bands and just really hit it off. And then from there, some of those bands started to ask him to produce albums. Like some of his earlier productions I didn't even know about until I started researching, but it's like bands' albums that I really liked that album and not any of their other albums. Like he did Midtown, Forget What You Know, that album, which was
that's cool.
That's like the only Midtown record that I like from front to back. He did Nothing Personal for All Time Low, and then he did like a bunch of one-off songs for a lot of these bands, like co-wrote and produced and engineered and threw keyboards on this and whatever.
His resume is definitely impressive. Obviously, Butch Walker is beloved, and this Marvelous Three song is great. It's great. The lyrics don't do a lot for me, but that chorus is great.
Yeah, it really sings.
Definitely has a cool voice. Definitely has done a lot of great shit. And I don't know. We talk a lot about when we're doing these episodes, will the artist listen to the podcast? Because like, a lot of times if you're a one-hit wonder, that one hit was 20 years ago, and then maybe you stopped being a band or an artist 18 years ago, and now it's like all of a sudden, oh, I'm the guy who wrote I can't think of an example off the top of my head, but I'm going to check out this episode of this podcast. But I don't think that Butch Walker is going to be listening to this.
I think he's got better things to do.
Yeah, he's got a lot of stuff going on. But regardless, Joe, it's been really cool talking to you about Freak of the Week. And I'm glad that you could be my Freak of the Week this week.
I love that. Yeah, it's no problem, man. I love this song. I love what Butch Walker has gone on to do, even more than his early work and this Marvelous 3 work. So it's a pleasure to be able to come on and turn this into Butch Walker cast.
For sure. And then, we actually had Matt on the podcast too, but for anyone who's listening, you should definitely check out Cassettes. Awesome band. You could just type them in. I don't even have to really tell you, but if you go on Spotify, Apple Music, wherever you got to go.
Cassetsforever.com.
There you go. That's easy enough. Hey, well, look, if this is a good way to put it. If you want someone who's listening right now to listen to what would be your one-hit wonder, if you had a one-hit wonder, what song would it be?
I'd throw him over to probably Born in the 90s. Off the Cassettes album Wild Heart.
Yep, that's the jam too.
Thanks, man.
Hell yeah, man. Wild Heart is the album. The newest album came out last year. It's awesome, man. It's so good, and it's so funny that when I had Matt on, we did Rick Springfield episode.
Yes.
That I seriously, not just saying that because I picked that. I hear a Rick Springfield influence in your music, and I mean that as a big time compliment. Me and Matt already discussed it, but both really love Rick Springfield. Actually, Punchline even covered Rick Springfield before.
Oh, no way.
Not even Jesse's Girl. We covered Love Is Alright Tonight, which is a somewhat deep cut, but made popular by the film Wet Hot American Summer.
He's got so many bangers. Like, it's wild that people only know Jesse's Girl because he's got a lot of great songs.
Right. We covered that, but I definitely hear that influence in songs like She Gets What She Wants, the first track on Wild Heart. Like I hear it and I love it. But yeah, man. Everyone should check out Cassettes. Maybe we could play a little bit of a track right here in the episode. That'll be up to Matt. Matt takes
Matt, you figure it out.
Matt, yeah. But once again, thanks for coming on, man. I know you got to get back to practice. You got to run through that set again.
Yeah, man. It was great to be on. And Butch Walker, Marvelous 3, great songwriters, great song. Happy to apprise everyone of the deep, rich history and then the ongoing legacy of the Marvelous 3 fellas.
Hell yeah, man.
Blonde hair, cherry lips, you move like I did.
This has been One Hit Thunder. One Hit Thunder is produced by Matt Kelly as part of the Geekscape Network and hosted by Chris Fafalios of the bands Punchline, Pack, and Another Cheetah. You can hear this week's guest, Joe's band, Cassettes, playing underneath me right now. Check out their music at cassetsforever.com. Punchline will be playing Anti-Fest on March 28th in Pittsburgh, featuring bands Anti-Flag, Suicide Machines, and many other great bands. Visit punchlion.com for tickets, as well as news, merch, and other upcoming tour dates. And let us know your thoughts on the episode by emailing us at onehitthunderpodcast@gmail.com. Make sure to rate, review, and subscribe to us on your favorite podcasting apps, and we'll be back next week with another episode of One Hit Thunder.
One look alive, 5 songs and whiskey eyes in this ordinary world.
You're listening to the Geekscape Network.
Hey there, I am Johnny Christ from Avenged Sevenfold, and I've got a podcast called Drinks with Johnny you're going to want to check out. I sit down with a bunch of different people from all different walks of life, from professional wrestlers to actors, comedians, fighters, musicians, everything in between. I'm just looking to make some friends and have a good time doing it. So if that sounds like something you're into, go check out Drinks with Johnny, streaming everywhere now.